Welcome to WideNet Gaming. Today looking at Void Bastards, which is a strategy shooter inspired by games like Bioshock and System Shock and has roguelite elements. And this game is really inspired by many different games. You have the aesthetic like Borderlands, you have gameplay kind of like Old Doom where you can't look down the sights, and then games like Rogue Legacy where equipment carries over as each character dies, and finally FTL even with the overmap where you're traveling from one location to the next. You play a set of rehydrated prisoners that have random traits, good and bad, traveling through the Sargasso Nebula on an arc through space. It moves along comic strip style. As you collect a piece of equipment to move the story along, you're treated to a little cutscene that shows each comic strip. And this also serves as a checkpoint, so it's a little more forgiving being a roguelite. The game moves ahead through a death loop. When the character you're playing dies, he is transported back to the Ark, and the equipment that you have picked up carries forward to the next rehydrated prisoner. Things, and this affects like the care package, the items that you'll get, but you'll lose like the ammunition that you had from the previous character. And the traits can be modified. You have one of these aboard the ships that you dock onto. You can modify these. So sort of like Binding of Isaac here, where those traits can be modified. There's three parts to the game. You have the equipment, and this is the stuff that carries over that you build based on the materials that you've collected. And this has a little tech tree that goes from one to another. If you have a surplus amount, you can also recycle equipment that you had for resources, with the risk that if you lose them, then you won't get them back. The second part is the FTL. Well, where it's similar is the map traversal. You see where you're at. You can't go backwards. You have a limited amount of food and fuel. And you use one of these, one to build up health, the other to go to the next spot. And you can choose whether to dock or not. You don't have to. You can keep moving. But you can take a look at the type of enemies you have, what's on the ship, and decide whether to board. Each of them have, you have procedural generation here. You have hazards. Here I have like the electrical wires that I touch. And these affect you as well as the enemies that you'll encounter in the ships. And other things are more the same, like the sec bot. If a camera sees me, this is on the majority of ships, but even this changes later on, like the bridge and other things. Another example of like random hazards is fire, and you use these uniquely to your advantage. Here I have the Rifter gun, and I have one of the Screw, a powerful enemy, and I am putting him right behind there and locking a door. Creative little things like that. After you dock, this is where the actual gameplay starts, though. You have the three weapons that you pick. You have the primary, secondary, and indirect, and you can use these as all primary, though. There's quite a variety, and you pick depending on what you're going to encounter. Other than that, you have different stations. Like here I have a casino, but you have other stuff too, like oxygen, that you have to maintain, be aware of. Difficulty can be changed at any time during the game, and you also have Iron Man, where if you die, then you have to start all over, otherwise you have that checkpoint. Usual fare of sci-fi weapons, like with the sounds of the guns echoing off these derelict ships out in space. And the enemies are funny too, like they'll make fun of you, call you butt face, and like other things like the announcements, like in Japanese, like you're on a train platform, you hear like fun little stuff like this. No local or online multiplayer, it is just you. I do recommend the game. It just works very well as a roguelite. You have the various weapons, enemies, and layouts of the ships in just a variety of gameplay scenarios that really engage you tactically and gameplay-wise. And like through this, you kind of learn what weapons are best in certain scenarios against certain enemies. And with the difficulty slider too, it is more open to all types of players. You can kind of customize it however you want. Like, subscribe, tap the bell, and I will see you next time.